You're listening to the Occupational Philosophers with Simon Banks and John Rice.
Hello and welcome to the Occupational Philosophers, a not-so-serious business podcast providing a mashup of the worlds of curiosity, creativity, imagination, play, and all manner of things with a bit of philosophy thrown in. I'm joined as ever by my co-host Simon Banks, and this is an Inbetweener episode, which is designed as a short, sharp, fruity exploration of such topics. And Simon, I believe you have a topic or a thought you want to share with us and explore today.
Yes, John. Have you ever heard someone stand up at an event and talk about the concept of VUCA? VUCA is the acronym.
I have heard of that. At first, I thought, along with other people, they were saying Veruca, and they were going to go into something about
Veruca salt, yeah,
foot problems. However, I swiftly caught on to the idea that this was an acronym denoting the world we live in. Is that right?
It is, John. And what I've noticed, just being an audience member or in different ways, is when people stand up and talk around VUCA, it's always very, very, very serious. And you're putting out your bottom lip now, so you probably understand what that means. So they stand up and they go, "It is a very VUCA world." Pause. Volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. How will we survive? Along those lines. So it's always very, very, very intense. Now, I recently saw someone stand up at an event and had a little bit more spark in his step. And he said, "Hey, it's not about VUCA, it's about TUNA." TUNA, which is turbulent, uncertain, novel, and ambiguous. And then he went in to speak around the concept of novel. That's probably the bit which caught my eye as well. But what I noticed is, and look, it might have been the style of his presenting anyway, but he came at it with a lot more light and levity, if that's the right way to say it. But the message still got across. So it got me thinking, why are people so serious when they talk around VUCA? And is it worth thinking around what's the intent we explore an idea and what message does that send? Because if you have this one as "we've VUCA'd, so it's all gone to shit." That's my little rant.
As you were saying that, Simon, I did wonder whether the person who might be best to deliver such presentations or keynotes could be the guy who does movie voiceovers, trailers. "In a world that's turned to VUCA."
Only one man can save us. That's exactly it. Yeah.
The CEO of a small technology company startup.
So it was just with that in mind, my thought came to, well, what are the right words to describe the situation, or the situation we're in? Is it really going to shit, or is it more of an opportunity? What's the energy we bring to the stage, and how do certain concepts come across to an audience? So, yeah, it's more of a question, John, rather than a statement.
I did muse around that, and I find that I did go towards the more desperate side of things in the world as they are at the moment. So my acronym was TURD, which is turbulent, uncertain, risky, and desperate. So now, so I couldn't help myself. I did go that way. But you do raise an interesting point. Can we, as speakers, convey these ideas but not have to bring that sort of deep, solemn sort of tone to it all? We're living in a TURD environment. Can we actually just recognize the complexity and the challenge, but then still rise to it? And as you say, then the tone changes. But that was one that I came up with. I've got others, but they all seem to have slightly sort of adolescent sort of references to things like turd and other things of a toilet human nature.
Before we go there, because I've obviously done a bit of thinking by myself, there's some other ones which are out there. So VUCA was developed by two chaps, Warren Bennis and Bert Nanus. in their book, Leaders, the Strategies for Taking Charge. And then the US military took this up around the time of the 1991 when Russia was no longer the USSR. So it's been known as a military peace, but it is not. There's another one, Bani, or Barney, however you might say it, depending what part of the world you're from. Do you know what this one is?
No, I've not heard of this one at all. No, what's that one?
Yeah, brittle, anxious, non-linear, and incomprehensible. So,
oh, sorry, that's me. I should have that stitched into the label on my shirt.
This is by a futurist called Jemai Cascio. So I apologize, Jemai, my European grasp of maybe your Spanish name is not to as it should be. And here's what we're saying. He says, we are in an age of chaos, an era that intensely, almost violently rejects structure. It isn't simple instability. It's a reality that seems to actively resist efforts to understand what the hell is going on. The current movement of political mayhem, climate disasters and global pandemic, and so much more vividly demonstrates the need for a way of making sense of the world, the need for a new method or tool to see the shapes this age of chaos takes.
Yeah.
Pretty intense, isn't it? Yeah.
It's quite intense, yeah. I think everything has gone to turd. It does make me laugh, though, that what they're trying to do is to describe the chaos and the complexity, and they managed to reduce it to a 4-letter acronym.
Yeah.
Something that complex can be reduced to 4 words. You go, oh, I thought it was more complex than that.
As with all great corporates, let's whack a little acronym on that to make it more complex for those who don't understand what I'm talking about. And there's another one I came across. This comes from the Center for Creative Leadership. They use RUPT, R-U-P-T, rapid, unpredictable, paradoxical, and tangled as well. So there's a few different ones.
This is just a random word generator now, isn't it? Surely.
Okay.
Tangled.
Well, on that and thinking, and I did a business program, which my book came out of. I just told you a guy, and there's a guy called Daniel Priestley who sort of heads that up amongst other things. And he speaks around a lot. There's never been a greater opportunity for entrepreneurs because the barriers to business are lower than they've ever been. Barriers to start something up. Your reach is bigger than it's ever been. It's all free. So he's got a bit of a more positive outlook on these things. And I thought, well, let's put in VUCA into old ChatGPT and see what they can come up with. We're saying, give me a more upbeat version of VUCA. And it's pretty good. VUCA, vivid, upbeat, collaborative, and agile. Okay, which is probably a good way to navigate the space. Or vibrant, unpredictable, creative, and adaptable. So I thought they were pretty good. So maybe just a different way of looking at the go on to hell situation we're in.
You might be onto something there, Simon, that maybe these acronyms need to encompass the complexity or the magnitude of the challenges being faced, but with the opportunities and the ideas that might unlock those challenges or navigate those challenges. So as you say, yes, it's uncertain, but we've got a chance to be really novel in our thinking. So you could combine both the upbeat and the more solemn recognition of where things are at and bring them together into an acronym.
We've chatted with someone recently who said if you approach a problem with positive intent, if you go with positive intent, your mind will be pushed to look for solutions rather than the challenges. And not saying you ignore the situation in front of you. Who was it? I thought it was a guest of ours. They said approach it with a positive intent, and that can change the way your outcomes go.
This is quite interesting then. So the message in here, Simon, is this reframing things a little? Maybe just being mindful of these acronyms and these little models that we bring to our understanding of the world, and maybe reframing them, saying, well, how might we frame this as an opportunity? And what acronym might that create that's a bit more upbeat and forward looking, as it were, without getting too motivational poster like?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. But it just made me laugh when that guy did the TUNA one that day, and he was a really great presenter. But he said, look, things are novel and that's exciting. And I thought, I really like that. So we focused in on more the opportunities around those things. And, the previous VUCA speakers sort of thought, well, we've had enough of that.
And I thought just before we maybe draw to a close here, Simon, I might share the fact that, as Louis Armstrong said in What a Wonderful World, and I was reflecting on wonderful, WONDERFUL, and I thought to myself, maybe Louis had it, that it is woeful, ominous, nerve-shredding, depressing, eco-unfriendly, ridiculous, failing, uncertain, and laughable. And there we go, Louis. You had it. That's why it's such a cheery, nostalgic song.
Well, John, as you can imagine, I thought, why don't I have a go at a few of these as well? And I went with Noel, as in Noel Gallagher. Novel, open-minded, exciting, and lucky. So I thought, we're lucky to be alive, like really, aren't we? We do live in an exciting time. I went for crack, crazy, risky, astute, coolio, kinky. So I thought that would...
we're not taking that into an organisation, are we?
Obviously, have you ever heard of the one Food Bar?
I think I have, yes. Is that...
okay. Up beyond all recognition. Yeah.
Okay. You'll have to bleep me later.
That's all right. That's all right. And I've gone for another one. I thought, this is how, if I could think, what do I want my day to be like? It's going to be filthwook. Now, this is fun, interesting, loose, fresh, weird, unique, and creative. Filthwook.
Filthwook.
Sounds like a Wookiee out of Star Wars.
It's definitely your new nickname, Simon Filthwook Banks. There we go.
And I've gone for my worst day ever, ICSWAP. Instant coffee. I'm seated with whingers and pessimists. ICSWAP. ICSWWAP. Instant coffee, seated with whingers and pessimists.
Yeah, it's catchy. You got too much time on your hands. Yeah. Too much time on your hands. TM. Very good. Well, that was a nice exploration of an interesting topic there, Mr. Banks. Thank you.
So if we're to wrap it up in one piece, John, what would we say? Think about the energy which you bring to a conversation and think around the paradigm which you look on that situation. And remember, not everything has to be VUCA'd.